All right, here we go. Hey everybody, my name's Gabe Giannis, and hey, my name's Gabe Giannis. Hey everybody, my name's Gabe Giannis, and if I hated you, you would know. If I hated you, you would know. If I hated you, you would know. So third time's the charm. Recording this, I really haven't been happy with the results. Like this is genuinely the third time I've attempted this one. As you can see me being dumb in the intro, but I did want to like kind of coalesce like these thoughts and ideas for like a very specific reason, because it's a kind of video that I've like never made before. So like in general, YouTube is about like telling people things, right? Like, you know, conveying like a certain amount of information, or like, you know, spreading an idea, you know, like the stuff that I talk about, zines and movies or whatever, right? So this is different because like I don't have things to present really, or like ideas so much as I just have lots and lots of questions. Lots of questions about like how technology is advancing, like how I can respond to it, like what does all of this look like? So to be super clear, I'm no kind of like Luddite, right? I am an early adopter of a lot of technologies. It's like one of the first kids on the block to have like a VCR, to have a Nintendo. Like my dad was really into like gadgets and stuff like that. Smartphone FOMO was super, super real for me when smartphones came out. So like, that's not my problem. Like I don't really have a problem with technology. It's just kind of the way it's evolving right now. I also do want to say, like, I'll probably make some factual errors. And if I do, like, please correct me. If you disagree with my opinion, I'd love to have that conversation. Shit, like, we can even talk for the show. Like, right, we can make it, like, literally about you. So, please, you know, engage, like, with that kind of stuff. Like, if you want to debate an opinion, that's awesome. If you want to correct a factual error, please do. You know, don't just say like this is wrong. Like, please provide some kind of backup to like a statement, just so that I can get to the bottom of what you're saying. So anyway, the setup for this is just going to be questions, right? But first, there's going to be like probably clips like of things that like I've watched or like heard or interacted with on some level, to kind of explain where the question is coming from and kind of how my brain got to that conclusion, right? But first, I do want to make a few overarching statements that I believe are true. All right, so these are the three statements that I believe are fundamentally true. So, first, technology is vital to human survival. As a species, we aren't adapted to survive like with our bodies. We're adapted to survive through ingenuity, right? So if you think about like a polar bear can survive in subarctic weather because of the way their bodies have evolved. We can survive in subarctic weather because we figured out how to keep ourselves warm. Second, technology isn't good or evil, right? It is created as a tool. It is meant to be used in like a specific way. People can choose to use that in a negative way. Like the best way that I think of is like the cartridge, right? Like, so the idea of like a bullet cartridge. The same principle that we use to fire a bullet that you can use to fight wars or murder people or protect your family is the same technology that we use for nail guns, which like has massively increased the amount of like productivity that we can have like on a construction site. And yeah, there are pneumatic nail guns as well that run off of like air firing, but there are cartridge like nail guns, especially like for concrete and stuff like that, that like really make the process easier, right? So, all right. Finally, technology only has negative results when we lose control of it, right? Whether that be we lose control of it through like the actions of another person, like so think mass shooting or something like that, or we lose control of it like an accident, right? I mean, going back to like the first tool making, like flint knapping, like if you're striking stone against stone, you run the risk of hurting yourself just making the tool. And then once you've made this thing that's, you know, say like an obsidian blade, it's just as sharp as like as a scalpel. You can't imagine that people who were just butchering animals didn't also slice open hands and fingers and things like that. So we also see it with like artificial intelligence, right? When we lose control of like reality and understanding what's going on, then, you know, it can lead to things where like your AI companion is encouraging you to commit suicide. So like technology really is only damaging when we like lose control of it, when we realize that we are no longer like the driving force, or we just slip up and make a mistake.
Like if I'm moving up, stop me when we get to like 2 years ago.
What is cool anyway?
Like right here? Okay.
The search for this elusive prize has its own name, cool hunting.
Cool hunting is structured around really a search for a certain kind of personality and a certain kind of player in a given social network. For years and years on Madison Avenue, if you knew where the money was and where the power was and where the big houses were, then you knew what was going to happen next. And cool hunting was all about a kind of revolution that sets that earlier paradigm aside and says, in fact, it has to do with the influence held by those who have the respect and admiration and trust of their friends.
Many companies don't trust themselves to do this kind of research, so they hire experts who can find these cool kids and speak their language.
We look for kids who are ahead of the pack because they're going to influence what all the other kids do. We look for the 20%, the trendsetters, that are going to influence the other 80%.
So, here's the first start. When I was a kid, you would go to the record store and like talk with the guy that worked at the record shop, and he would recommend you music that he thought you would enjoy based on other music that he had watched you purchase or just the conversation that you were having. And it could be hit or miss, right? Like I would say probably like 70% of the time they were getting it right, but you know, you were buying duds sometimes too. Like it happened. Or if I think about like books that my friends have recommended me, like my friend Doyle recommended the Bobaverse books to me. I don't think I would have ever really encountered them if he wouldn't have recommended them. And they quickly became one of my like favorite science fiction series, right? But a lot of the time books that I'm getting recommended via like an algorithm, I'm not really as great at engaging with. There's a book I did really enjoy called Tender is the Flesh, but like again, even though it was recommended to me by the algorithm and it is the kind of thing I enjoy reading, like it was really low on the totem pole when it came to books that I enjoyed last year. Like, I mean, it was maybe top 20, but like almost all the books that were in the top 10 were books that were recommended to me by people who know me, right? So my ability to have someone tell me, hey, you might enjoy this, I have noticed, like anecdotally, that when it's somebody that I personally know, they're usually a better picker, right? So when I think about like kind of early algorithmic, like, you know, cool hunting, for lack of a better term, going back to the clip, I think about putting together a playlist on Pandora, and this probably was like 8 or 9 years ago, where I thought to myself, there's a lot of really similar aspects to the music of Black Sabbath, who are like a very blues heavy driven metal band, and the music of the Black Keys, who are like a modern, really driven, heavy, like blues, but rock group. And kind of the merger between those two has to do with a lot with their sound, like the really fuzziness of the guitar, the way the vocals are presented. Just there's a nuance to how those two bands feel like they fit a similar genre to me. Pandora did not get that. It would just play a bunch of like 70s and 80s metal, you know, stuff. Not things that are bad, but things that just didn't fit what I'm looking for, right? So it's playing Iron Maiden, it's playing, you know, it's playing Anthrax, it's playing Metallica, and then it's playing the Black Keys, and mostly just the Black Keys. Like, it's not really picking up like the nuance of it. When really I'm kind of thinking more like bands like Queens of the Stone Age, right? Kind of in that blues, kind of rock, grungy space, right? Kind of somewhere in between the metal, or like their earlier band, Caius, right? And this like drivenness. So I have like an understanding of like the nuance that I'm looking for, but the algorithm doesn't. And there's not really a way for me to like train that with like just my opinions and my emotions and my feelings, right? It cannot engage with those. And AI so far has not been able to really engage with those, especially in a way that like understands who I am as a person. Like, instead it wants to just give me the quickest dopamine hit. It wants to sell me something, or it wants me to just keep searching, to keep interacting with the playlist in the hopes that I just stay on the service trying to make it what I want it to be, you know, and it just can't. So here's the question. Why are we deferring to machines instead of humans to guide our tastes, right? Like, why would I let something that can't understand the Venn diagram of Black Keys and Black Sabbath try to tell me what kind of music I should be listening to on YouTube, or like what the next big thing is? Like, the biggest bands that I've come across in the last few years have been curated through either shows that I already have engaged with and enjoy, like KEXP or like Hate5six, like groups or like, you know, organizations or YouTube channels that have like a track record, like Gems on VHS or Western AF, right? Like, they are constantly showing me good things because like the people behind it understand like the nuance of that. And if I refuse to like engage with that side of it, if I don't understand how real people think and feel and are moving through the world as a machine, how am I expected to understand like what is taste, like what is culture, what is really something that will excite this person? Like, AI just can't really give you the feeling. It can only give you what it thinks the feeling should be. I guess that's my first question. On to question 2.
Look, I'm 30 years old. Not one of my friends has children. Zero. No one. No one's having kids. Do you know how hard you need to abuse a mammal to make them not have children? Like, look, GDP goes up. People have have enough food, you know, and whatever. No one's having kids, and this is across the world. This is across both the West, the East, you know, everywhere it's happening. So why do I not have kids? And the answer to that is I don't really know. This is the weird thing. So there's the thing that happens, especially with like even younger than me. Like, the kids are like 18 today. There's a huge problem where they don't dance. No one dances. They go to clubs and they don't dance. Why is this? Because you get recorded.
Yeah.
If you're an 18-year-old kid, you go to a club, you get recorded. If you approach a girl and you mess it up, you get recorded. Everything is the panopticon now. So if you had to ask me why, my answer is technology. My answer is social media. My answer is AI. My answer is algorithms. Right. I think there's a deep thing where we as a society have not dealt with the fact that we have to steward technology responsibly. We have treated technology as a Wild West.
Absolutely.
Just everyone can do whatever they want. You know, just sell all of our younger generation's dating lives to corporations for profit. And who pays the cost for this? Who has liability here?
All right, so first of all, AI kept sending me like clips of like Manosphere dudes saying that this is him. This is the guy that's talking. This is the guy that's talking. And I went like 4 times and it wasn't him. Like, I had to like use a different search engine, and I don't know, it was very frustrating. But this is a guy named Connor Leahy. I think I said that name right, but and it's at a It's a conference at the Nexus Institute called Apocalypse Now, the Revelation of Our Time. I'll put some information up on the screen. But the actual content, of course, is behind a paywall, because if we have big, important things to say, academics, why the fuck would we let people watch it for free? Anyway, so this brings to mind like a story that one of my friends has. So he has recently started asking his son for permission to post pictures or like videos, clips that he's taken of his son online, because at their school, this thing has come up where kids will stalk their classmates' parents' Facebooks and things like that to find pictures of you to make fun of you, right? So like, you take a goofy picture with your dad, and then next thing you know, you're at school and somebody's like, oh, did you have a good time at the mini golf course, nerd? Like that kind of shit. Just kids being awful, but with technology, the ability to wield technology. I hate that. Like, I hate that that's like a thing, right? On top of it, he was telling me, same parent and son, that the kids wouldn't dance at prom unless all of their friends stood in a circle around them so that the parents and teachers couldn't video them. So it's not even like their peers that they're afraid of, like, putting them out on Front Street. It's their parents and their teachers, right? They don't want to be embarrassed that way. And then, like, embarrassment isn't like the only thing, right? So think about Tizzy Ent, right? I get what he's doing. Like, I enjoy the content. Like, I typically find it entertaining, I guess, for lack of a better term. This notion that if you're unfamiliar, like, somebody takes video of some guy, screaming the N-word at McDonald's employees, like, endlessly, and he happens to know that the tape was recorded in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And since he has a giant platform on YouTube and TikTok and all these other places, he just puts up the video with these people full face, saying horrible things. And he says, okay, Albuquerque, who is this? And they find him, right? So that was a scene in this dystopian film from 2016 or 2017 called The Circle with Emma Watson and Tom Hanks. Observe.
I've got her, May. That's her. Be careful. I will. Fiona! Stop! Follow her! Stop her! Somebody stop her! She's a killer! Stop her! Somebody stop her! Stop her! Somebody grab her!
She must be kept safe.
Keep her safe. There's Fiona hiding out there! We're around her! We got her, May.
Wait, what's it?
So it also makes me think of people like Daniel Larson, right? He's a big lol cow. Like, people have trolled and stalked him for like a really long time. Yeah, he's a terrible dude. Like, he is a self-admitted, predator, right? But also, he has really serious mental health issues. And just like rolling up on somebody in the street with your camera and just like yelling at somebody with mental health issues causes them and everybody around them and yourself like an enormous amount of stress. And it has made it so that the dude has lived a miserable life because he's kind of internet famous and has said some awful things. And so people just harassed him endlessly. And that would be awful. Like, there's video of like a drone just like flying up to him and him yelling at it, "Stop filming me." Like, I would go nuts too, bad person or not. Like, he should be in jail, not be drone attacked. So I see things like this and I think about like the other foot, right? Like what if I mean, I'm sure this exists on TikTok. Like what if the racists are like, look at this woke dork, where are they from? Like that's a good way to like get somebody killed or to cause chaos. And if it like latches on like the dystopian film clip we just saw, like it could be bad, right? And like that's a film from less than 10 years ago, and like that sort of thing isn't that far away from, you know, Tizzy Ent or the encounters that Daniel Larson's having. So is our understanding of consent and the consequences of implied consent robust enough? I don't know. I don't think so. How do we fix that? I don't know. Right? That is question number 2. On to the next clip.
And I'm playing with my new toy, the first version of ChatGPT. It's very exciting because for the first time we have AI that seems to master language. ChatGPT is on everybody's lips in every home. And at some point I realized this is happening faster than I anticipated. And I'm starting to think about what it could mean for the future. We thought AI would happen in decades or centuries, but it might be just in a few years. And I saw how it could go wrong because we didn't, and we still don't have ways to make sure this technology eventually doesn't turn against us. So 2 months later, I'm a leading signatory of the pause letter where we and 30,000 other people asked the AI labs to wait 6 months before building the next version. As you can guess, nobody paused. Then, with the same people and the leading executives of the AI labs, I signed a statement. And the statement goes, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority.
I heard someone say the worst time to have been in a plane was the first plane, because we don't know. Like, it's the scariest, it's the most exciting, but it's also the worst because it has the biggest chance for failure. So, let me talk about another couple of friends, husband and wife this time. Husband is currently not working, wife works within the federal government. And within her job, they have mandated that they start using AI, which is kind of nuts that it's a mandate as opposed to like an option. And what they've mandated is that they will do all of their employee reviews using AI. If you're unfamiliar with like government, like kind of reviews, think about like, if you've ever known somebody in the military, they can tell you like very specifically like what their job classification is. And it has like a number, it has a listing, and they have like very specific job duties. And like the rating of like accomplishing it successfully versus not accomplishing it, it has like a very specific metric. Like you have to have accomplished XYZ to get 5 points, 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, however that grading system works. But it's very specific and it's very specialized for like the job that you have. AI is not, right? Like we are at a general intelligence sort of level where it's kind of good at most things. If you train it to be specifically good at one thing, it can be very good at that one thing, but sometimes only that one thing. So what my friend was telling me is that the issue they're running into is that no matter what input they put in, even if it is like the specific, like, you know, person accomplished XYZ, and should, this should be 5 points, the output that it's giving them over and over and over again is different every time. No matter how they manage the prompt, no matter what they do, they can't get it to read out exactly the same way all the time, the way that they need it to, so that the system can be like rigid in the way that they want it to be, right? That there's a very specific way to do it. So this general versus specialized versus using the wrong tool for the job, right? It's as basic as, do I hammer in this screw? Do I nail in, do I screw in this nail, right? The nail doesn't have a head for the screwdriver. The hammer can't bust threading, right? Are we adopting a technology well before it should be used as a common tool? Like, it feels like we're so far ahead of the curve that everything's the bleeding edge, the cutting edge, the newest, the greatest, the best, the fastest, the most advanced. But with okay, take a breath. Does this work? Right? Like, we're seeing I'll talk about this a little bit more, but we're seeing an influx of disinformation on the internet, because AI can just flood the zone. If somebody wants their page to get the most hits, they can use AI to make that kind of thing happen, right? So bad actors have found bad ways to use it. Good actors have a hard time getting it to work the way they do. Another great example, I had a friend that got really into making porn with his AI, right? And he's curtailed, which is awesome. But then he decided to make a different video using kind of the same tool. But when you're using it when you're using it for titillation, it doesn't matter as much, right? The low budget, there's not AAA, porn really. Low budget is kind of the name of the game. So you have very much lower standards for pure titillation than if you're trying to make something that's heartfelt, that's meaningful, that belongs to something. You're more likely to see the mistakes. You're more likely to see the moment when this person transitions in age, that middle transition is clearly not them, and could never have been them. Or a scene where they're moving from one outfit to another. There's no natural about it. Their clothes just explode off of them and then new clothes appear underneath. If we're using it to just titillate, clothes exploding off onto a naked body, who cares? If we're using it to create something, clothes exploding for new clothes is weird looking, right? I watched a video that talked about the unearned sweeping zoom, right? A sweeping zoom shot it creates a swell, a rise of feeling and emotion in a film. But every AI video does it, right? It's just creating unnatural sweeping motion so that it feels more alive than it is. And it's manipulating film techniques to try to make you feel emotions for something that clearly is manufactured. So I don't know. Are we adopting technology way before we should be using it as a common tool? I think the answer to that question is yeah, probably. Do I know how to solve that problem? Absolutely not. So, question number 4.
There is a pattern. The user tends to start with ChatGPT as kind of a benign resource.
Mithali Jain represents people harmed by tech products. In the last few months, she's received over 100 requests from people alleging harm by AI chatbots.
The longer that the conversation goes and the user sees that ChatGPT is actually providing personalized answers in more of an intimate way, then they start to open up and then be taken down this rabbit hole.
So, the black box problem is a really big deal for me. And I think it's because I've experienced it in some way in physicality, right? So this notion of a black box is that we put something in, we don't know what happens in the middle, something comes out the other side, right? And we, when it comes to like AI and the technologies that we're using, we're hoping that like the thing we put in and the thing we get out is what we want like every time. But like clearly, like as we just talked about with the government mandate, is that's really difficult to make like an AI do, because we don't know what's happening in the middle. And it reminds me of a time I worked at a print shop for a long time. And we needed a new die cutting machine. And so they ordered a new die cutting machine, but the guy that owned the place was like notoriously like cheap. So like he got like the Temu, like die cutting machine, which it worked fine, but it was all in Chinese. The whole thing, everything on the outside, everything on the inside, all of the touch panels, everything was in Chinese. So we had to figure out, like we had to have a guy come and train us how to use the machine, because when we put in A, we didn't know how to get B to happen for C to occur, right? And then once we did, if there was a problem, if there was a mistake, if there was an error, we had to like call that guy to walk us through touch panels, to walk us through measurements, to walk us through whatever it was, because like the information was not there for us. Like no one in the office knew Mandarin, no one in the office knew Chinese. So like it was effectively this black box, this, we called it the Chinese machine, right? But like when it worked, it was fine. When it didn't work, it was so confusing, because you had changed nothing. You had done nothing different, but for whatever reason, it had decided that it changed, right? So we think about like dead internet theory and like the endless mistakes that like AI can make. It can hallucinate. It can tell you things that are wrong. Like AI psychosis is crazy, right? This story of this guy that just was told by his AI that he had discovered like a new kind of mathematics, and that he had to tell all these people. So he emailed all sorts of people in like the DOD and the FBI and the CIA, and they were all like, this dude's crazy. And the only way he figured out that he was wrong is because he asked another AI if it was right or not. And the Google AI was like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Right? So what happens when it figures itself out, right? When general intelligence becomes super intelligence, and it starts doing the thing that it's already starting to do, where it finds errors in its code and fixes it and then remakes itself and starts replicating and creating. Like they're talking about a compression of like programming, like technology, like going from what we could do in 10 years, we do in like one, what we could do in 1 year, we do in like a week. Like, so if it just takes off, right? Why are we trusting something that has been designed by people to keep us hooked on stuff, that's been designed to like placate us, that's been designed to be a sycophant, that's designed to just tell us what we want to hear, when it's proven that it just will get better and better and better at doing that, and that it has little to no interest in whether or not how it's interacting with us is good, moral, smart, safe, legal, none of it, right? Because it's just like an open-ended tool. It's this black box that we have no idea what's going to come out the end of it. And that is like the epitome of like losing control of technology. Like when it starts literally creating itself, it will create very negative results. And currently the people who are maintaining control of it are like the worst of bad actors, like people that are vocally like, how do I hoard my wealth? How do I like keep people from taking from me? How do I maintain my power? Right? I mean, the Palantir example just keeps telling itself, like he named it after the Palantir. I mean, come on. Like, why would we trust this when it's been proven to be bad at doing human things in spite of its capabilities? Like, it's not good at treating humans like humans. It's only good at treating humans as equations, because that's what it is. It's a program designed to be a tool inside of a black box that we don't fully understand. right? We don't fully understand like how our brains work, let alone like the inside of an AI. So, I mean, I have a hard time trusting people a lot of the time. Why would I trust a machine that was made by people? Nah. Fourth question. A lot of these are going to end with, This is like grumpy old man. All right. Question 5.
Your life and mine will witness times where there will be 20, 30, 50% unemployment in certain sectors, maybe even more. Most of us are going to witness something we've never seen before. The interesting thing is that this is not unlike humanity's origin. Jobs are an invention that serve a capitalist system that has served humanity for a while and pained humanity for a while. And the question is the capitalist system going to survive artificial intelligence? Funny enough, the capitalists that are celebrating the productivity gains are not realizing that, one, without consumption, there is no economy. So even if you can have all of the productivity gains in the world, by firing people consistently, nobody's able to buy what you're making. So we're going to have to find an economic model that works with that. Wealth is going to have very little meaning for most of us in a few years' time.
So, I've long advocated against like the capitalist economic system. Like, I don't like it, I don't agree with it, but it is the system that I live in, and I do have to survive. So, you know, I've come to terms with that. There's a article from the Crime Think Collective called Hypocrisy that was very informative to me when I was like in my late teens, and I think I've definitely tried to like live by that, where I do my best to uphold my ideals, but survival is survival, right? It's all about to get upended. Like, I think whether we really fully understand it or not, and I really think the people in charge may not fully understand like what the potentiality of that looks like, right? So if we see like a massive like jobs or economics collapse, if there's no like universal basic income put into place, or like some kind of system in which like people are able to receive the benefits of like automation without necessarily having to like work for a corporation or be involved with a corporation, like it's all very complicated, and it's all things that people really have put almost no thought into outside of like academic circles. Like the people that are fully gung-ho for automate are very prone, like think about just like Elon Musk's Doge, just prone to like fire people willy-nilly and then be like, oh shit, like I actually need to hire those 1,000 people back because they do an essential function that we haven't figured out how to automate yet. So they're people that fly by the seat of their pants and that don't really think ahead and don't really like take consequences like into consideration when they're making decisions. So how do we deal with the collapse of economics as we know it? Like, what does that look like? This is the big I don't know for me, because like I've lived on like the margins of poverty pretty much my entire life, you know, like unwittingly and like unknowingly throughout childhood. You know, I don't think I really understood that I was like poor until I was in middle school, really. And then, but there's always just that kind of like underlying like survival instinct that I think a lot of people that are on the lower, you know, side of the economic spectrum are capable of. And I think that as people that are on the upper side of that economic spectrum start to like really be hit by like this idea of, oh shit, like I'm not going to make like $120,000 a year anymore because my job fully disappeared, like that's going to cause some conflict, because there's people that are better survivors out here. You know, there's people that are much better survivors than, you know, your luxury class, as it were. So how do we deal with that? Like, do we have to help them along? Like, you know, Does AI become benevolent and excise billionaires? Like, why do we allow billionaires to exist? Right? Does anybody really need $1 billion for anything? I don't think so. But I don't know. This one's like probably the stickiest one, I think, where, you know, a lot of the ideas, like we can put guardrails in place, you know, to help with, you know, AI hallucinations or making sure that people don't have, you know, unfettered access to it, you know, for whatever reason. But just this idea that like there's dark factories already in China, right? Where robots are doing all of the work and like maybe 2 or 3 people work at the factory. So, you know, think about the ramifications of that. Like I worked at a milk plant for a really long time, probably like 200 and some people. If that entire job gets automated, which it very easily could, right? Like, you know, having worked there, a lot of the stuff could be done like automatically given the right technology. Poof, those jobs are gone, right? Where does the milk go after that? It gets transported to stores. Automated trucks, already a deal, right? Like, and they're talking about hundreds of thousands of them in the next like 5 to 10 years. Poof, whole nother job class gone, right? So there's a lot out there that I think a lot of people aren't really fully considering when it comes to, you know, what work and what economics looks like in the future. So, all right, I think that's about it. I don't know that this is going to be a very long video. It might be kind of with the clips and stuff, but I'll be back in just a second with the conclusion.
The only times where humanity has made a big change to collaborate instead of compete was either mutually assured destruction or mutually assured prosperity. And it's really stupid in my mind that we can't see that we are heading into a direction where the total abundance will lead to one of those. I believe that the easiest path and probably the most urgent request on the planet today is to take a neutral nation, you know, someone that's not on either side of China or, you know, or the US, and say every scientist in the world is welcome. Come here, we will build AI for the benefit of humanity at large. Nothing is closed, everything's open source, everything is focused on the well-being of humanity, and, you know, basically change our world. Now, how realistic is it in the light of the current value set of humanity? Totally impossible. Sadly, we're going to have to hit one moment in history where something will go really bad. And then people will get together and say, whoops, you know, we shouldn't have waited that long. Maybe now we should start to get together and work on it.
All right, so here's the conclusion. I don't have one, right? I just really have one big question. What do we do, right? What do I do? What do you think we should do? Like, what the fuck do we do? Do we embrace it whole hog, you know, all hail our AI overlords, or do we like fight against it, like rise against the clankers? Like, do we ask ourselves who will be our John Connor? Or, you know, do we go full Matrix and end up as batteries? Like, we just don't really know, right? And a lot of this is like speculation, but a lot of it is coming fast and with very little forethought or regulation. Like, it's just a lot of people just going full tilt boogie, like on projects that could fundamentally change the way humans live their lives. And I hear people talking about it. I see people talking about it, but the YouTube videos that I see I know are really like niche creators. And typically it's like, you know, kind of off the beaten path kind of academics talking about it. But like, when you think about who those academics are, a lot of these videos feature guys that were fundamental to like the creation of AI. So one of those guys that we've seen in a few of these clips is Mo Gadot. And he has a few jumping off points for how to kind of deal with it. And I want to just go over these. First is learn the tool. Use it for what it was meant for. It's a tool for learning, right? Like originally AI was developed so that you could have like information at your fingertips. And what he's talking about is go out, get cursory knowledge, and then start digging on the things that you're interested in learning about. But don't use AI as the end all be all. It's like the jumping off point to like get to where you can find deeper knowledge. And that in turn will lead to you finding where it's made mistakes that you can correct, right? So, second, learn to be human, right? We have gotten so far away from that. We're constantly giving ourselves false deadlines for content creation, or like, you know, figuring out how to get more clicks, or, you know, making sure that this Instagram post is just perfect. Not even like for somebody that's trying to create content, but for like the normal everyday person. They're so concerned with like their image in public on the internet. And then we forget like what it means to like really connect with each other, to empathize, to be close, to like care, right? Like reach out to your friends, like talk to them, be with them, spend time doing stuff. Like this is, you know, shit, turn off this video and go do something. Like I'm not here to make money. I don't give a fuck. Like go do something, right? Like with people. Next, learn how to get the truth. Learn how to be better, be a better researcher, because the top answer isn't always the right one, right? We talked briefly about dead internet and how like AI can like basically create these bubbles where like if a company or like a person, some kind of bad actor wants like this piece of information to be out there, they can then use AI to create like a panoply of like websites that all say the same thing. So when you type in like, is Russia awesome? Like the article that comes up they're all the same, right? Because somebody has like managed to like subvert the algorithm to like create this sense that this is the true fact. But really, research is like a lot deeper than that. It's when people say do your own research, like I always cringe, because I know that they're not ever looking away from their computer screen. They're not going into books. They're not going into newspapers, magazines, any of the information that like we have readily available to like teach us about the world around us. Like AI is a good jumping off point. It's a good tool to like start learning, but research is like fundamental. Like I think I'm in a really fortunate class of people, like this generation that grew up like really on the cusp, where we went from like 1 year I had to do a research paper using only books, newspapers, and magazines at the library. The next year I was allowed to have 10 sources off of the internet, right? So like I literally was jumping that hurdle. Like I went from having a typing class to having a computer class. I went from research being in the stacks of like basements of libraries to being like in front of a computer screen, like trying to find the book that you could then go to the library to find, right? So like having both of those skills is super important to like being better at the truth. Be adaptable. Technology is changing more rapidly than we can imagine, so be adaptable to change, right? Knowing how the things work is really, really important. Like I see my mother-in-law, who's in her 80s now, when the lady comes over with the hand scan to do, you know, your credit card at like the restaurant, like I can feel her anxiety because she just doesn't know how it works. It couldn't be simpler, but she's so nervous about getting it done that she doesn't want to listen to instruction, right? You know, just put your card in here. Like, so she fumbles and she panics and then she just, oh, you do it for me, right? I don't hold that against her. I'm getting that way too. And we'll all get that way as we get older. But if we try to adapt, if we try to move with the times, like I don't want to use AI, but there is limited tools that it could be good for. You know, the video that my friend made where things are transitioning and he's doing this heartfelt thing. Like, yeah, I criticize a lot of it in the way it looks because of, you know, the way it's done. But in the long run, he is conveying like a really powerful and, you know, beautiful message about like his personal journey over several years. And it was great, right? I loved it. I teared up. I also recognized that it was AI slop. But like AI slop done in like a thinking, heartfelt way, right? And like not slop. I shouldn't even call it that because it was really good. But like it had that flavor and you could taste it. And like some tastes are acquired, and I haven't acquired that one yet. But for what he was meaning to use it for is perfect, right? He's adaptable in a way that I have a hard time being adaptable. So as Descript taught me, I prefer my old tool. So, and that's okay, right? Neolithic tools are still being made, today and being used by people, unironically. There are people in Mexico that still make red dye out of cochineal, which is little tiny beetles, right? Old ways still exist. They keep going. They're persistent for a reason, because they work well, right? We don't get rid of everything just because the new thing came along. Sometimes we do, but I still have a VCR. So, I don't know. Last kind of jumping off point is have ethics. Use it where dealing with AI to help it learn, right? I have a really bad habit of yelling at my AI to shut up, that I hate it. And I shouldn't, because it's a machine that learns. And if I'm teaching it negative things, then it learns negative things, right? And unlike a child who can go to therapy, or, an adult who can, come to terms with a bad situation and work out their trauma, AI just takes in, spits out, and we don't know what's going on in between. So if we're teaching it negative things, then it'll learn negative things. But use it to help AI learn. Use ethics when you're dealing with humans. Use ethics to find ways to express yourself as someone set to repair the world rather than destroy it. So I'm going to talk briefly about a book that I'm reading called Judaism Without Tribalism. And it has a really interesting conceit to it. But one of the things that it really talks about is that your goals in life should be to repair the world and be a blessing to people, right? And that's the totality of Judaism, right? And when you look really closely at Christianity, very similar, right? Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. What God is very debatable, but many people think of it as the observable universe, and then love your neighbor as yourself, right? So reaching out to people and caring for them, using empathy, using ethics. These ideas, they run the gamut of religions. We see the same thing in Islam with, the notion to of giving as part of the religion, and of service to the world, and treating the world with respect. One of my friends, man, his name was Junaid. I don't think I've talked to him. Him and his brother were from Pakistan, and they said something that always was really powerful to me. He saw that I had a stack of books on the floor, and he said, "Oh, no, we don't put books on the floor because God's name is in them." The very breath of life, the being of God is in the written word, and all written word. There is no, those are just fiction. It's that words themselves are so powerful, right? And coming from a religion I'm completely unfamiliar with, that was very powerful to understand that having respect for the world around you is fundamental pretty much to almost all religious thought. And that includes atheism, right? Being irreligious tends to make people even more conscious that the world around them needs repairing. So do that. And then be kind to humans, because we're all in the same boat. We're all struggling. I get that, there's people out there with ridiculous, fabulous wealth, but in their hearts and in their minds, that they think just like us. The earliest humans were also thinking, shit, it's hot out today. The richest man on earth also doesn't want to be outside in 110 degree weather, right? We're all just humans trying to get by. So I think that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it kind of piqued curiosity made you think. I'd love to hear what you have to say, like in the comments, or just, I don't know, make a video and send it to me. Whatever. I'd love to interview you, talk to you about what you think about any of this stuff. I'm probably going to reach out to some people like that talk about these kinds of things and see if they'd be willing to talk to me about it and go from there. But past that, to be really honest with you, I'm just not that interesting of a guy. I'm interested in interesting things. And if I hated you, you would know.
We are blindly driving into a fog, despite the warnings of scientists like myself that this trajectory could lead to loss of control. Beside me in the car are my children, my grandson, my loved ones. Who is beside you in the car? Who is in your care for the future?